So here's what the stand finally ended up like in its complete form. I've been using it for about a year and a half, and as I probably mentioned in part one, I just didn't like how far I had to reach in order to touch what it was ever in the rack. One thing that I did not show that I built at the time was the shelf. I just took some of the sliding rails that you would find for a kitchen cabinet and added them to this frame that I built and put this shelf on top of it. It's not as smooth as I would have liked it to be, but I built it in a hurry and it did serve a purpose. I probably would have added a handle out here and maybe straightened it up a little bit better, because the to get it past this soft stop, it's kind of tough to do and you kind of end up jerking the whole desk. But I just took a 1/4 inch piece of 2-inch steel and welded some angle iron onto the back to mount the rails to. And it was just that simple. It wasn't all that hard. And then I just took some small screws and took a piece of this laminated medium density fiberboard and put it on the top. I probably painted the sides. I can't remember if I painted the side black, but anyways, this was like a scrap from a 7-foot piece, and I just took the excess off, cut it off, and then painted the side black. And that's pretty much how it showed in part one, just like that, with the exception of this. And the one thing that I did mention in part one that I ended up doing in addition, it was by accident, but what happened was the width of this back part of the frame was just over 19 inches. So it allowed me to put another 6-space set of rack rails on this side and on the other side. I don't know why I did them at different heights. There was a reason for it. At some point in time, I had a power conditioner here and I had a shelf here, and I may have had another piece of rack equipment, but the main thing was the power conditioners. I really liked having those there because it saves the space from up top where I had other rack equipment and limited space. This shelf that I built ended up taking up 3 or 4 spaces. So this is the other side. I think I put it lower because my frame wasn't square, so that's as high as I could get it. Anything higher would have been less than 19 inches. So overall, it turned out to be pretty functional. And if I had it to do over again, what I would do is make this space wider to where it could actually slip over my desk, and the desk would go underneath here, and I could get the rack closer to me so I could actually use what's in here easily, which was the main problem. It was just too far away. And now I don't have any use for it, so I think I'm going to sell it. And with the exception of this headphone holder, this rack space cover, and the power conditioner down there, it's just like this. I'll put a link below to the Craigslist posting, and you can pick it up in the North Texas area. It's $100, which is pretty much not bad considering the rack space that you get. And if you've got a mid-Atlantic desk, you know that it fits the width.
So here's how the setup looked on the last day that I used it. I removed all the rack gear out of it a few months ago and bought a Middle Atlantic rack and placed it all in there along with my computer. You'll see a shot of that here in a minute. I primarily use this desk to do the administrative part of my business, but as you can see, it's really set up as an audio-video suite. So let's go over some of the stuff that I have on my desk. To the left, I have the Shuttle Pro made by Contour. Next to that, I have a TC Electronics volume knob. I think they call it the Level Pilot. And then the keyboard that I have is the Nectar Panorama P4. And that's just the cheapest keyboard and mouse that I could find at the time, as well as a little light for lighting. I've added soundproofing to the walls and ceiling and behind my desk. I bought 2 of these Middle Atlantic racks. They're just 14 space racks with a door and the laminated top that matches the desk. I've set the absorption panels up to where they're modular. That way I can move them around wherever I need absorption, such as a temporary vocal booth. I only have a few pieces of equipment that go into rack mounts, And from the top to the bottom is TC Electronics Fireworks. It's a sound effects module. And then my audio interface, it's a Focusrite 18i20. And then there at the bottom, that's Access Virus analog modeling synthesizer. I had that on the shelf that I made for the desk that you saw at the beginning. Below that is the computer that I built a year and a half ago. It's pretty much the same that I did in the video, with the exception of I've added a 500 gigabyte solid state drive, and I'm no longer running 8.1. I had to switch back to 7 Pro for stability. Here's just another quick shot of the desk and how I wanted this drawer that I made, or shelf. I wanted it to pull out over the synthesizer or over my control keyboard, so I could have the synthesizer or a drum machine on top of it and use it. It worked out pretty good, but it's still too far away for me to effectively use. Here's another shot of some furniture porn, I guess. So that's an overall shot of the desk, and I basically use Reason. I think they're up to 8.3 at the time of this video as my main synthesizer, and I've been happy using Sony Vegas Video Pro 13 as my main DAW. But if I'm doing some recording, some samples or something like that, I don't switch over to Sony Vegas if I already have Reason open. I'll still do the samples or whatever vocal recording in Reason. This is a microphone that I use. It's a GrooveTubes GT57, and I believe this is a Middle Atlantic pop filter. And you can see down there at the bottom right, I have a little headphone stand, and that's what I use to hold my headphones. So what I decided to do was take the meter bridge that I'd built and swap it out for a TV stand. Figured it would save a little bit of room, and it would really just offer the functionality that I need, which is put a TV behind my desk at a reasonable height where I can see it properly. The model I chose was a North Bayou AVA 1500-60-1P. What got me interested in this was I saw one of these on Craigslist when I was looking for stands, and the guy was selling it for $500 or $600 used. Although it did look a little beefier than this, actually it looked a lot beefier than the model that you see here. I still thought that the amount was pretty expensive. I think he had said he paid $1,000 for it new. So I started looking up different models from this manufacturer, and I noticed on Amazon that this particular model was $135 new, and I think it was free shipping. So I did some looking around, and I read the reviews, and I think almost all the reviews were positive, and it's rare that you see something that's got that many high reviews as this did. So I thought I'd take a chance on it and see how it worked. So this is the build and a detailed review of the stand. Everything out of the box seemed okay. All the parts were there, and the box seemed to hold up okay over shipping. I noticed the manual had been translated using some automated translator, so some of the English is interesting at best. Right off the bat, I noticed that there were some tolerances in some of the holes and or welding that made me have to drill out some holes. The one that you see me using the Allen wrench on here was one of them. I had to drill it out a little bit bigger, and then I added a washer just to help compensate for the bigger hole. It was off by, 1/8 of an inch, but it caused the screw not to go down properly. They have a cosmetic cover that covers these two bolts, which I forgot to put on. I'll put it on later. Here's one of the other things that seemed like it was out of tolerance a little bit. The back plate that actually mounts to the front part of the stand that holds the TV. It's just off by an eighth, maybe just a little bit more than that. And it didn't seem like it caused any problems as far as mounting everything. But one thing that there is an issue with is it's really hard to adjust the stand up or down past a certain point, which is kind of okay in the grand scheme of things, because you don't want it to, when you're adjusting it, slam down all the way really quick or raise up really quick. As you'll see here in a minute, I unfortunately had it happen to me. And here's what the brackets that mount to the TV look like. It requires you to use spacers. The bolts are pretty long. I noticed when I put it on the TV that the spacers prevented the TV from setting properly. And as you'll see here in a second, right there, that's a close-up that it doesn't allow the TV to rest up against the stand properly. And it most likely is because of my TV. You probably wouldn't find that on every TV. I had to take the TV back off and find some bolts. I was lucky enough to have some bolts from another TV that I have mounted to my wall that I had extra, and they were shorter, and they worked out fine and allowed me not to have to use the spacers. But the spacers can also be there for having a curved back or needing to raise the brackets from the TV so that you can run cables behind them. But in my case, the way that the inputs for the TV are, it's no big deal. They're all to the side, as you can see here. This is what I was talking about earlier as far as it being really hard to move up and down. I think the way that these two vertical posts got welded to the bracket in the middle, they were just a little bit off, and they were preventing the stand from moving up and down. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the little pins that pop out in order to prevent the TV stand from coming down. And I'm moving them out of the way completely so I can use all my force to actually lift the TV up. Well, in doing so, I kind of got them stuck in there. And that's the example that I was talking about before. You have to put all your effort into pulling them up, and it gets to a certain point, and there's no resistance whatsoever, and I wasn't paying attention, and I slammed it down all the way. So I had to take the TV back off one more time so I could get the little stoppers all the way down and use my finger to get them back in position. And that's both of them clicking back into place. The one on the left side of the screen, I didn't like how that was sitting from the beginning. It didn't seem like it wanted to pop out all the way. Well, the reason for that is because the holes aren't aligned. So here comes the old drill again. I had to drill this hole out a little bit bigger, but it never did come back around. I'm only halfway satisfied with how it is. I think I would have preferred having some kind of bolt system that went all the way through that would prevent it from dropping and hold it in place. So it's pretty easy to feed the wires down through the hole. There is a little spot where it can get stuck on the stoppers, so you just have to keep trying, and then you can get it down. But I was able to feed the power cord and the HDMI to the second input up okay. One of the things that I did not put on that does come with the stand is the shelf in the middle. I just had no need for it, so it's not on there. As you can see, it rolls super smooth, and the wheels are lockable if you don't want it to move around. One of the things I didn't think about was that I like to stretch my feet out underneath the desk. I never realized how far I stretch them out. And this stand, the way that I have it, which is pretty close to my desk, right at my desk, actually protrudes underneath the desk and prevents me from sticking my legs out all the way. So that's just a personal quirk. It's not a failure of the product itself, but it's something to be aware of if you're long-legged. And although I'm not going to use a center speaker anytime soon or at all, I went ahead and put the shelf on there because it's out of the way, and I'd rather have it with the stand as opposed to in storage somewhere where I've got to go look for it if I ever need it. I forgot to install these plastic grommets where the wires are ran up and down, but I left them hanging on the wires, so just in case I ever re-pull them, I'll put them on then. Overall, I'm happy with the build quality. It should take you about 30 to 45 minutes to build this. And although I had to use some of my own parts, there's so many different TVs and different configurations out there, it's almost to be expected. And don't be surprised if the tolerances are a little bit off, making the bolts hard to get in and out. You might have to do as I did and modify some of the parts. And here's a final shot of how it fits into my office. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help. Don't forget to like and subscribe.